organizations around the MENA region and globally to develop impactful action towards achieving the global goals. Let's put our hands together for Miss Fatima.
Thank you very much, Johanna. Thank you very much, QYP team. Thank you, Shang Tong, for the applause reactions. I appreciate those very much. And thank you for the wonderful introduction and all the wonderful work that each of you have done to put this conference together. This is entirely a dream come true for myself as a part of FIMU and for myself as an individual, as an educator, to see so many familiar faces, graduates, I can say, of the FIMU Qatar program that have got such inspiration, direction, organization, leadership, vision, potential. I'm a very, very, very happy person right now. So congratulations to each and every one of you for putting together this wonderful, wonderful conference. So I think I'd like to reflect that round of applause back to the executive and organizational team. Well done, guys. So just quickly before I begin, is my microphone clear? Is everyone able to hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Fantastic, then I will begin my presentation. So I was contacted about a month ago by Natalie and asked to speak about what is youth leadership. Pretty broad context. And for many people, when you ask them what is youth leadership, they'll hem and haw and hedge their bets and say, well, there's no one key definition. Wrong. There is a clear definition of what is leadership. There is a clear pathway of how to create youth leadership. And there is a correct and an incorrect way of doing it. So I'm here to give you the shortened, because I see that we're running out of time, the shortened 10-minute presentation as to what it is to be a youth leader and what it is to be an effective youth leader as well. So the first thing is that leadership is about empowerment, not just empowerment for ourselves because, you know, when you become a leader, you have power. No, it's about empowering others. So I want to ask you a question based on your understanding of history. Can you please scan this QR code and answer me the question, which one of these leaders do you think is the least about empowering others? Because we have all seen leadership that, whether it's in our extracurriculars, whether it's in our schools, whether it's in our homes, where the leader is just out for themselves. And then we've seen examples of leadership where the leaders are very much there to empower the team and the commitment that they want to achieve. So just throughout history, taking this out of a youth context, making this about military leaders, which one of these leaders do you think has is the least about empowering others? I'll give you a minute to answer this poll. I'd like to encourage everybody to vote, please. You've got 30 more seconds. I see people are figuring it out now. Fantastic. We've got 50% of the group that's voted. We're looking for the other 50% to make their votes. All right, we're at 70% saturation on the votes. 10 seconds to go. As quickly as you can, please. Right, and we'll close it at that. So thus far, we've got around 44% who voted that Napoleon was the least about empowering others. Second, closely behind him, is Pol Pot, the despot of Cambodia. And of course, at the very, very end, the famously kind, generous, and humble Salahuddin al-Ayyubi. Okay, absolutely. Your leadership style extends beyond your lifetime to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, because that's the impact of being an empowering leader. This is what happens when we're looking to get leadership for the sake of power, for the sake of leadership. And when we are like Salahuddin al-Ayyubi and we're looking as power as a part of a lifetime legacy where your focus is on taking care of others as well as being a successful leader in yourself. So thank you very much for that, everybody. Thank you for your votes. Interestingly enough, for those who are particularly passionate about researching history, I don't know if we have any history buffs here. It's difficult with this Zoom situation. Can I get a hand up, please, if we have a history buff? Right, thank you. So Napoleon himself was not a particularly bad leader. He had unfair bad press on his reputation. However, he himself was actually a particularly empowering leader. Napoleon's leadership style was very much about including others, making sure that you get the best out of your team, making sure that you are present and that you join in. You know, the old adage of a leader jumps into the middle rather than leads from the front. He was also very kind, grateful, involved, polite, and all in all, a pretty agreeable fellow. The same can be said, of course, for Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, but the same cannot be said, of course, for Pol Pot, who was the first leader to ever institute a genocide on his own people. So yeah, history will not be kind to them. So let's get into the blueprint of what does it mean to empower others, which comes under the general umbrella of what does it mean to be a leader. So, okay, if we're looking at leadership as empowering others, and these are the leaders that we emulate, that we want to be, that we remember throughout history, then the leaders that empower others have these four main characteristics. They develop their team, they are courageous, they're grateful to their team, and they make sure that they join in. I'm going to take a moment because this is a feature of incredible simplicity, but incredible impact as well. This is what it takes to be a leader that empowers others, and in the process, we empower ourselves. Just take a minute, take a screenshot, enjoy this. Right. So when we're looking for leadership as empowerment, apologies, when we're looking for leadership, thank you. We're really looking for two basics of leadership. The first of them being integrity, and the second of them being passion. Now, integrity is a very interesting concept. The thought of integrity is essentially building that trust between yourself and your team. And that's where your characteristics of integrity are essential. So this is the blueprint of what does it take for me to become a leader. For you sitting behind your screen right now, what do you need in order to proceed from your state as it is now towards being a leader? And these are the two things that you need to have that are the basics. The previous slide is like the house that has been built, a fully formed leader. But this is the foundations, what needs to happen before we even step into the role of leadership. This is what's needed as an essential, non-negotiable part. Everything else that comes afterwards, the organizational skills, the communication skills, the ability to enroll others, that comes afterwards. But essentially, we need to start with integrity. Now, what we mean by integrity is not just that you keep your word. What we mean by it is that when you are presented with a thinking piece, you can be trusted that you will deliver a result that is about the well-being of everyone else and not just yourself as a selfish leader. It means that when I ask you a question, when I present you with a problem, when I come to you as my leader, I trust that what you're gonna give me back will be for my own good and for the good of the people around me, and it won't be a selfish response. That's a part of integrity. So I think I can trust this leader then, because they have not so far offered me bad advice or given me bad instructions, or in the case of the military, ordered me to do something that hasn't been for the greater good. Integrity is essential in leadership, and it can be practiced for those who are not necessarily the most comfortable with integrity, those who like to bend and sway and manipulate the truth a little bit. It may be very easy to achieve a short-term goal in that way, by being manipulative, by being a bit dishonest and weavy. But as a true blue leader, you will need to demonstrate integrity and consistently demonstrate integrity. And that's something that you need to begin from now. That's how you build a reputation with integrity. The second of them is passion. Now, many of the executive team I've met before, and we've had conversations about why are you interested in leadership and what is it exactly that leadership means to you? So I'd like to ask the audience this time, what are your passions? I've put the top 5 answers that I usually get when working with young leaders as to what their passions are. So I'm going to give you a minute again and ask you, what are your passions? Please scan the QR code. And afterwards, we'll talk about the role of passion in how it contributes to you being a young leader and how it contributes to you empowering others. Fantastic, fantastic. We're going a lot quicker this time. We're already at 50% saturation with the votes. I'd like to encourage everybody to please vote. Wonderful, we're almost at saturation and we won't even need to go the whole minute, I think. 10 more seconds. Wonderful, and I'll stop it there. So in top position, the passions that have been demonstrated by today's audience is that they want to help people. 34% would like to help people in general. Next up is I want to improve education, going neck and neck with I want to help children. Next is I want to help women and girls. And last on the list is I want to help reverse climate change. That's very interesting, to me at least, because these are the answers that I've been receiving for the last 18 years that I've been in education. When I work with young people, what do you want to do? What are you passionate about? It always starts with, I want to help people.
Hi. I'm sorry, the chat is disabled, but I can't find the link.
Oh, it's on the screen. It's the QR code on the screen.
Okay. Sorry, thanks.
No worries. No worries. Thank you for your question. So, okay, why do we need a passion for something in order to be a leader? What on earth is the point of passion? There's no value in leadership if it's passionless. That means you're taking on the work and the burden and the responsibility of leadership for the sake of power. If you're not doing it for the sake of passion, you're doing it for the sake of power. That's a very uncomfortable situation to find yourself in as a leader and as someone led by someone who's motivated by power, because they will never have integrity. If your focus is on power, you will never make decisions that are about empowering others, that are about creating something positive. You will make decisions that are about serving yourself selfishly. So it's essential This is the blueprint for leadership, is that you must have a passion. So when I first started developing young leaders, the answers would always be about as vague as the answers that I gave you on this QR code poll. It would always be, I want to help people. What does help mean? It's such a broad reaching term that you dissolve yourself very quickly inside it. It's hard to achieve something that unspecific. And even when we drill down and say, actually, I want to help children, what exactly do you want to help children on? I want to help women and girls. What exactly do you want to help women and girls on? It's important to be able to find your passion, because without your passion, you can never enroll somebody else to support the achievement of your goal. A leader needs to be focused on achieving a goal with integrity. So there's somebody that we can trust, but they also have a passion towards achieving a goal. Otherwise, conversations tend to mire in the ditch about logistics and problems, as opposed to enrolling people in how can we work together to achieve my vision or our goal. That's how you enroll people onto your team. You come to them with a passion, you prove yourself that you have integrity, and then you end up with a team, and you by default become a leader, who is empowering people, but also serving a goal and serving a community. It's absolutely essential to find your passion. And at such a young age, I saw in the chat, there are students here in grade 7. It's very difficult to find what your passion is. Integrity can be practiced in all aspects of our life, but finding our passion, I invite you right now to stop and think, what is your passion? Not many people have one. So how do I find my passion as an 11-year-old student, as a 12-year-old, as a 13, as a young person? How do I find my passion? Now, I may be biased, but I genuinely think that Fatima El Qatar is a really good way of finding your passion. Again, I may be biased, but what we do in Fatima El Qatar is you attend conferences such as the Qatar Leadership Conference that we have every fall. And during that conference, you go into a workshop where you meet somebody who is either a youth such as yourselves or an adult that are passionate about something. And they enroll you in that passion. They explain what the problem was that got them to get involved in that idea. They give you skills and ideas and exposure, and something that we in the business call soft skills. They give you that insight into a world that you have perhaps may not have been as familiar with. And as a part of that conference, you come out with something that has ignited inside you, like a passion. That's an incredible thing for a young person to be a part of. Or even the MUN conferences that Fatima El Qatar has, where the issues on the agenda are about things that you may have never experienced before in your life, not even been aware that this was a thing. And now as a part of being a part of that conference, you have a passion for a specific part of gender equality, for a specific part of helping people, such as refugees in a certain area. It's very, very important to have a passion that you can use as your platform for leadership. So, blueprint of a leader, what I promised to deliver at the beginning of this speech, that I said so many people would hem and haw and hedge about and say, oh, there's no such thing as a blueprint to becoming a leader. Yes, yes, there is. Integrity and passion. So because we're running out of time, I'm going to skip this short video that I put in of this marvelous 100-year-old MP who decided in her 100th year to run for political office because she was passionate about opening up a swimming pool in her local area. She thought that it would be a huge impact in her local community. And so this is what she ran her platform on, but I'm going to skip it because we're running out of time. So now here comes the somber note. I've explained to you what it means to be a young leader. I've explained to you what it takes to be a leader that empowers others, which is the only kind of successful leadership that we recognize even hundreds of years after our death. But now we're looking towards the future. And we have an issue. And that issue is that we have an aging population. Less and less and less children are being born. Our workforce is getting older and older and older, which means that the youth that we have now are going to be more and more essential towards the running of our communities, whether local, national, or international. Whether you want to be a local leader that like Liesel, the 100-year-old MP in Germany, whether you want to be a national leader representing your country, or whether you want to go into the United Nations, become an international leader, youth is more and more essentially engaged in order to have a future for our planet. Just as climate change is ravaging the nature, aging population is ravaging our human resources. It's ravaging our cities. It's ravaging our very fundamental ideas of civilization. And at the same time, hand in hand with this, we've got several issues with a lack of access to quality education. That's an incredible issue. Even within some of the wealthiest countries in the world, we still have issues with delivering a quality education. Many of you have expressed this to me in the past, where you feel that your education is catering towards a bygone era and not towards the future that you see. Even after you get a fantastic education, perhaps even to a PhD level or a master's level, there's a lack of jobs around. And even if you get a job as a young person and you graduate and you get a job and you've done everything you ought to do, there's a lack of affordable housing around the world. So you end up living in just far worse conditions that your parents or grandparents lived in. And that's all kind of part and parcel with this whole deterioration of the way we function due to an aging society. So when youth are told, you must study, you must get a job, you must get your own home, and each of these is just a worse quality than they ever had from their parents, and a worse quality than their parents ever had from their grandparents, it ends up with a loss of trust in governance, which will break apart our entire society if the most essential component, which is growingly more essential, which is our youth, no longer trust governance because they are not getting the quality education, because they are not getting the good paying jobs, because they're not getting access to affordable housing, because of all these issues. If there's a loss in governance, there will be a breakdown of our societies. The only solution to counteract this, to guarantee a civilized future for us all, is for youth to be involved in governance, is for youth to be more and more trained towards leadership. It is no longer an option for you to be a young leader. It is a requirement for you to become a young leader. And I applaud each and every one of you for joining into the Qatar Youth Conference today, because this is your first step. This is where you're going to start discovering your passions. This is where you're going to start finding a space in which you can make an impact as a leader. This is where you start to understand and coalesce this meaning of integrity, what it means to be a leader. You'll get training, exposure, and ideas for what it means to become a youth leader. And it is essential that you do so. Just as essential as it is for us to all reduce our carbon footprints and save the flora and fauna of our planet, it is essential for as many youth as possible to step in to the role of youth leaders and start becoming youth in government, youth in governance, bringing together the shattered parts of our political sphere, bringing together change and impact in our local communities, in our national communities, and our international communities. And programs like the Qatar Youth Conference are absolutely phenomenal for things like this. And again, I may be biased, but Fatima Qatar is also a phenomenal training space for youth to become leaders.
Ms.
With
Fatima,
that
thank you
being
so
said,
much for your speech. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. So
yes,
if you would please post the links and resources into the chat and or share it with us, and we'll share it with everyone here. Yeah, we'd appreciate that. And thank you so much for your time. Your speech was
that's perfect,
wonderful
Hannah.
and
That is
very
done.
impactful.
Perfect. Thank you all so much for your time, and I wish you all the best of luck in the upcoming conference.
Okay, so thank you everyone. That was a lovely keynote from Ms. Fatima, and we will now be moving on to our next session. So welcome to our first workshop titled Sports Values, Youth and Global Citizenship. With great honor, I would like to introduce you all to our esteemed guest speaker, Mr. Massimiliano Montanari. Formerly of the United Nations, he is the Executive Director of Save the Dream. The floor is yours, Mr. Montanari.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. So good afternoon, and thank you so much for the floor.